Hello, everyone. It's Naomi Wolf with the Geneva Bible reading. And yes, it's been a very busy day. If you follow me, you know that we announced an open letter related to what's going on with the administration and seeking action on protecting children from these horrible injections. Just giving you a little background of today. And I also did an interview with Max Kane, who is a farmer who brings farms and farm food, dairy and meat, at great risk to himself to people who want to eat it. And we talked about the persecutions that farmers face from this world, basically, including in the United States, or in some ways, especially in the United States. Well, certainly farmers in Britain and France are facing persecution. But it was incredible to hear that you are committing a crime by transporting raw milk across state lines or by butchering an animal on your own farm and selling it to your community. Incredible persecution of farmers. And it seems as if these issues I just shared with you are unrelated to the Geneva Bible readings, certainly to this reading tonight, which is again about leprosy. But I think they aren't, because these chapters have really been about purity and impurity and how to regain a state of purity and basically what to do with a fallen world, right? Leprosy can be a metaphor for a world that's imperfect and has diseases that are spiritual as well as physical. And so these chapters are about how do we regain balance with God or with a state of purity? How do we bring a state of purity back into our own lives and minds and homes? And, these other stories, putting a deadly injection into children, that's a state of impurity for sure, I will venture to say. And persecuting people who are trying to look after animals and the planet and bring healthy food to hungry families, that's got to be a state of impurity as well. And so you could say that all the people who are trying to protect children, who are trying to protect animals, protect our food supply, protect God's creation, are seeking to bring our very messed up world into a state of purity, a state of harmony. So we're dealing with disease, right? We're dealing with moral disease, spiritual disease, political disease, social disease. And these chapters, read metaphorically, are about, number one, facing the fact that there's a disease, right? Like all of these chapters that we've just read through, the ones about leprosy, start with someone acknowledging that there's something wrong and bringing it to the priest and seeking help and seeking purification. So maybe that's a huge takeaway that, unites all these themes of a very tiring day for me. You've seen me a bunch today, if you follow me. But, maybe thinking about being ready to give some of our thought energy to the fact that children are being endangered again with a horrible, deadly injection, even though we want to believe it's not our fight. Maybe it's everyone's fight, right? And also that our food supply is being corrupted and animals are being mistreated and the earth is being pillaged, and farmers who just want to take good care of the earth and their animals and feed people healthy food are being really, I don't want to say martyred, but certainly persecuted. I had no idea how brutally farmers are treated for just wanting to, look after their land, their animals, and people who eat their produce at the hands of big ag and even big pharma and the federal government, USDA. So let's get into it. It's, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat. This is another challenging chapter. It's not, a fun narrative chapter. There's not lots of novelistic drama. It's more instruction. about cleanliness. And let's just jump right in. And I guess the other thing I should just like remind you all is that I set myself the task of reading a chapter every single night. And so far this week, I've managed. I haven't skipped a night, even though I was quite exhausted before the camera started rolling for the third time today. So I'm going to keep doing it, but I am finding, like with not eating pork or shellfish, like with keeping the Sabbath to the extent that I can, something that seems really, really hard at first and kind of annoying and difficult and not what I want to do. I want to watch Netflix, right? It does seem to be, I mean, God was, I keep saying, like, I hope not blaspheming, God was pretty smart. Moshe was smart with God, right? These strictures, which seem so laborious and just difficult and random, do make you feel kind of comforted and strengthened. It's a form of discipline for sure, but I have been not dreading, that moment where I don't choose the pork or the seafood. Like Brian and I went to a Chinese restaurant and there was delicious shrimp with broccoli. And I was like, that sounds really good. And then I was like, not eating shellfish. But it was just like a moment of kind of mundane disappointment, but I'm kind of getting addicted to those moments of doing what God has clearly said he wants in the Hebrew Bible, because you really feel good. Like, you don't feel good like, oh, I've deprived myself of a dessert. You feel good like you just feel stronger inside. It's very interesting. Less buffeted by the winds, more peaceful. Just sharing my own experience. And I'm a long way from, following all the commandments. There are 613, according to Orthodox Jews. I'm a long way. But it's a very interesting journey that even with these baby steps I've taken, things that seem difficult and annoying and self-sacrificing turn out to be like a fleeting sense of frustration or friction, but a much more lasting and deeper happiness. I would not have thought it. And we're definitely not taught that in our culture. So just sharing that, and let's just jump right in. So this is chapter 14. And as always, if you've got the big, beautiful, expensive facsimile book, open it up. And if you don't, or you can't afford it, there is a free Geneva Bible 1560.com PDF. Just open that right up on your phone, on your computer, and follow along. And the subheadline is The Cleansing of the Leper and of the house that he is in. And this is, again, the Puritans' Bible, Shakespeare's Bible, Jefferson's Bible, this incredibly beautiful, very good translation from the Hebrew from 1560, done by people who fled for their lives from England to gather in Geneva where it was safe and create a translation that wasn't sanctioned by the Roman Catholic Church, but that they wanted to make available to any, as they said, plowboy. All right. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, This is the law of the leper in the day of his cleansing. That is, he shall be brought unto the priest, and the priest shall go out of the camp, and the priest shall consider him. And if the plague of leprosy be healed in the leper, then shall the priest command to take for him that is cleansed 2 sparrows alive and clean, and cedar wood, and a scarlet lace, and hyssop, which is a kind of plant. And the priest shall command to kill one of the birds over pure water in an earthen vessel. After he shall take the live sparrow with the cedar wood and the scarlet lace and the hyssop, and shall dip them and the living sparrow in the blood of the sparrow slain over the pure water. And he shall sprinkle upon him that must be cleansed of his leprosy 7 times, and cleanse him, and shall let go the live sparrow into the broad field, or the open field. Then he that shall be cleansed shall wash his clothes, and shave off all his hair, and wash himself in water, so he shall be clean. After that shall he come into the host, meaning the crowd, the tribe, the community, but shall tarry without his tent, meaning outside of his tent, 7 days. So in the 7th day he shall shave off all his hair, both his head and his beard and his eyebrows, even all his hair shall he shave, and shall wash his clothes, and shall wash his flesh in water, so he shall be clean. Then in the 8th day he shall take 2 he lambs, male lambs without blemish, and an ewe lamb, a female lamb of a year old without blemish, and 3/10 deals of fine flour for a meat offering, mingled with oil, and a pint of oil. And the priest that makes him clean shall bring the man which is to be made clean, and those things before the Lord at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. Then the priest shall take 1 lamb and offer him for a trespass offering, and the pint of oil, and shake them to and fro before the Lord. And he shall kill the lamb in the place where sin offering and the burnt offering are slain, even in the holy place. For as the sin offering is the priest's, so is the trespass offering, for it is most holy. So the priest shall take of the blood of the trespass offering and put it upon the lap, the earlobe of the right ear of him that shall be cleansed, and upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the great toe of his right foot. The priest shall also take of the pint of oil and pour it into the palm of his left hand, and the priest shall dip his right finger in the oil that is in his left hand, and sprinkle of the oil with his finger 7 times before the Lord. And of the rest of the oil that is in his hand shall the priest put upon the lap of the earlobe of the right ear of him that is to be cleansed, and upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the great toe of his right foot, where the blood of the trespass offering was put. Hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf of Daily Clout. Have you ever wondered why your brain can feel foggy even when you're eating clean and exercising? It might not be burnout, it could be parasites. Groundbreaking research from Dr. Alan McDonald reveals a direct link between chronic parasite infections and neurological diseases such as multiple sclerosis. Parasites can cause inflammation, nerve damage, and long-term cognitive decline. More reason to do a full body cleanse at least once a year. The Wellness Company has a solution for you, ivermectin and mebendazole, the gold standard parasite solution now combined in one cleanse combo, designed to eliminate harmful invaders and support your immune system naturally. Medical grade, not some trendy herbal gimmick. Fill out a quick intake form and you'll get a 3-month supply shipped straight to your door. Maha is officially here, and the Wellness Company is making hard to get medications digitally accessible so you can live your best life. Head to dailyclout.health and use code dailyclout to save $60 off plus free shipping on all orders. Cleanse your body today. Get rid of parasites today. Thank you. But the remnant of the oil, the remainder that is in the priest's hand, he shall pour upon the head of him that is to be cleansed. So the priest shall make an atonement for him before the Lord. And the priest shall offer the sin offering and make an atonement for him that is to be cleansed of his uncleanness. Then after shall he kill the burnt offering. So the priest shall offer the burnt offering and the meat offering upon the altar, and the priest shall make an atonement for him, so he shall be clean. But if he be poor and not able, meaning if he can't afford it, then he shall bring 1 lamb for a trespass offering to be shaken for his reconciliation, and a 10th deal of fine flour mingled with oil for a meat offering with a pint of oil. Also 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons as he is able, meaning as he can afford to, whereof one shall be a sin offering and the other a burnt offering. And he shall bring them the 8th day for his cleansing unto the priest at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before the Lord. Then the priest shall take the lamb of the trespass offering and the pint of oil, and the priest shall shake them to and fro before the Lord. and he shall kill the lamb of the trespass offering, and the priest shall take of the blood of the trespass offering and put it upon the lap of his right ear that is to be cleansed, and upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the great toe of his right foot. Also the priest shall pour of the oil into the palm of his own left hand. So the priest shall with his right finger sprinkle of the oil that is in his left hand 7 times before the Lord. Then the priest shall put of the oil that is in his hand upon the lap of the right ear of him that is to be cleansed, and upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the great toe of his right foot, upon the place of the blood of the trespass offering. But the rest of the oil that is in the priest's hand he shall put upon the head of him that is to be cleansed, to make an atonement for him before the Lord. Also he shall present one of the turtle doves or of the young pigeons as he is able, meaning the person who's unclean, such I say as he is able, the one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering with the meat offering. So the priest shall make an atonement for him that is to be cleansed before the Lord. This is the law of him which has the plague of leprosy, who is not able in his cleansing to offer the whole, who can't afford to offer the whole sacrifice. The Lord also spoke unto Moses and to Aaron, saying, when you come unto the land of Canaan, which I give you in possession, if I send the plague of leprosy in an house of the land of your possession, then he that owns the house, shall come and tell the priest, saying, methink there is like a plague of leprosy in the house. Then the priest shall command them to empty the house before the priest go into it to see the plague, that all that is in the house be not made unclean. And then shall the priest go in to see the house. And he shall mark the plague, meaning notice it, register it. And if the plague be in the walls of the house, and that there be deep spots, greenish or reddish, which seem to be lower than the wall, then the priest shall go out of the house to the door of the house, and shall cause to shut up the house 7 days. So the priest shall come again the 7th day, and if he see that the plague be increased in the walls of the house, then the priest shall command them to take away the stones wherein the plague is, and they shall cast them into a foul place without, meaning outside the city. Also he shall cause to scrape the house within round about, and pour the dust that they have pared off without the city in an unclean place, outside the city. And they shall take other stones and put them in the places of those stones, and shall take other mortar to plaster the house with. But if the plague come again and break out in the house after that he has taken away the stones, and after that he has scraped and plastered the house, then the priest shall come and see. And if the plague grow in the house, it is a fretting leprosy in the house. It is therefore unclean. And he shall break down the house with the stones of it, and the timber thereof, and all the mortar of the house, and he shall carry them out of the city unto an unclean place. Moreover, he that goes into the house all the while that it is shut up, he shall be unclean until the even, meaning evening. He also that sleeps in the house shall wash his clothes. He likewise that eats in the house shall wash his clothes. But if the priest shall come and see that the plague has spread no further in the house, after the house be plastered, the priest shall pronounce that house clean, for the plague is healed. Then shall he take to purify the house 2 sparrows and cedar wood and scarlet lace and hyssop. And he shall kill 1 sparrow over pure water in an earthen vessel, and shall take the cedar wood and the hyssop and the scarlet lace with the live sparrow, and dip them in the blood of the slain sparrow in the pure water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. So shall he cleanse the house with the blood of the sparrow, and with the pure water, and with the live sparrow, and with the cedar wood, and with the hyssop, and with the scarlet lace. Afterward he shall let go the live sparrow out of the town into the broad fields. So shall he make atonement for the house, and it shall be clean. This is the law for every plague of leprosy and black spot, and of the leprosy, and of the garment, and of the house, and of the swelling, and of the scab, and of the white spot. This is the law of the leprosy to teach when a thing is unclean and when it is clean. So the notes point out that an unclean place outside the city is where carrions, meaning dead animals, were cast, and other filth, that the people might not be therewith infected, not infected by those dead bodies. And they also observe, I just love these footnotes, they're so cute. They also observe of the string, the scarlet lace, it seems that this was a lace or string to bind the hyssop to the wood, and so was made a sprinkle. The apostle to the Hebrews called it scarlet wool. And by the way, does that ring a bell for you? Does that ring a bell for you? There are a few things in this passage. Oh my God, this is so beautiful. We have over 1,000 people watching and listening for a chapter that is about, more about cleansing leprosy. So, good for you guys. You're hanging in there, and I appreciate it. And I hope you're getting a lot out of it. So a number of things should have rung a bell as you were listening. One of them is, again, that theme, recurrent theme 7. The house needs to be shut up for 7 days. The person needs to be in, alone for 7 days. And you should also notice or remember that the touching of the right earlobe and the right thumb, and the right big toe, we also saw that in Exodus. And the moment where the priest, and it's about like swearing. It seems to be about like, I don't mean like swearing bad language. I mean like committing, right? I need to find out more about it, but it seems to be a ritualistic way to transition, as I said, this liminal moment, this sick, diseased person into a state of greater purification, committing him to a state of greater, or her to a state of greater purification. So the other thing I want you to think about is at the end of the various kinds of cleansing and anointing that the priest is doing with a diseased person, he dumps some oil on the diseased person's head. And you should really note that. It's come up, periodically in these 3 books in the Torah, but that is, anointing is a kind of sacred act, a ritualistic act, which is very, very important. Again, making something holy. And who is anointed, right? I've said this before. Christos is literally the translation in the Greek of the word anointing. He's the anointed. And Mashiach is anointed. So it's what you do with a king. It's what you do with a divine being or a sacred being. The Mashiach, the Messiah. You recognize the Messiah because the Messiah is anointed of God. But also it's, it goes all the way up to kings and, divine beings, but it also goes all the way down. And this is a theme, right? Early Judaism, the children of Israel, as above, so below, right? There are things that are very elevated and very holy, but you can bring them down. Again, the kingdom of God, right, is right there in how you eat and how you drink and how you treat your family. And so this poor, diseased person, who could even be a literally economically poor, diseased person, is being anointed the way kings and divine beings are, to restore by the priest, who's this figure of, great respect and recognition and authority, to restore him or her to a state, a state of sacredness. So that's something worth noticing. And also really, really interesting that the house can be diseased, right? They clearly didn't understand, epidemiology in the way that we do today. Maybe people 100 years from now will look back at us and think, how could they have thought these things? but they literally are describing, or God is describing in this chapter via Moshe and Aaron. If you're like me and you're getting to that age at which your body sometimes just hurts all the time, please listen. Don't reach for another painkiller until you learn about this turmeric hack for pain and inflammation. You've probably already heard that turmeric is being used to fight inflammation and joint pain, but not all turmeric is created equal. Regular turmeric powder in your pantry will help you a little, but a leading pain doctor from Connecticut discovered a special turmeric extract that is 200 times more powerful than what you find in standard turmeric. And when he shared this turmeric secret with his patients, the results were extraordinary. This turmeric extract attacks pain at the source, turning it off like a light switch, so that pain not only often goes away, but stays away. Dr. Josh, the brains behind it all, has spent 20 years helping hundreds of thousands of Americans finally break free from constant aches and stiffness. And his turmeric hack has been the backbone of their success. So don't engage, if you can avoid it, with expensive surgeries, pain injections, or inefficient over-the-counter medications with side effects. Greet pain-free living. It's incredible stuff. I started taking it regularly, and I really did notice a difference. Again, you can't just take any old turmeric. If you want to learn more about Dr. Josh's turmeric secret and the exact method for how to use it in your routine, go to goldenrevive.com/dailycloud. The link is right below this video in the description. Click on it and start your journey toward a pain-free, healthier life. Not just how you recognize leprosy on a human body. That was the subject of chapter 13, which we finished yesterday, but literally almost the same symptoms in a house. You remember that when they were looking at a human body, they would look at a lesion that was a depression lower than the skin, and they're literally looking at the same thing in a house. Now, is that mold? Is it an insect infestation that they're confusing with an infection in human skin? I really don't know. To my knowledge, leprosy is not transmitted in the walls of a house, but I don't know, because certainly it does make very good modern sense. And this is very early, epidemiology. Like, God obviously knew things that humans hadn't figured out yet. Washing your garments or even burning things that are infected or contaminated, that still happens, right? I mean, that happened up until the early 20th century with, people who had tuberculosis or other infectious diseases. And certainly leprosy can be transmitted through close contact with people, and I believe even through, garments, linens. You want to change the linens, you want to change the garments. So this is like very early, basic infectious disease hygiene. Very, very early. Like, I'm not aware that there are other texts from this time or even images that show, basic epidemiological hygiene. Maybe there are, but I'm not aware of it. I can't recall that. So again, to me, this is like Yahweh being very specific about how to keep your house clean, how to keep your garments clean, and how to keep your body from getting infected, how to keep the community from getting infected. Now, there's something else very trippy about this passage. I don't know if you noticed it, but Yahweh is like, spoiler alert, right? Yahweh is starting to talk about Canaan. Now, as I said yesterday, these people are wandering around in the desert. They have no idea where they're going. But Yahweh just said, when you get to Canaan, a land that I will give you for your possession. And then he said, and you have houses that will be in your possession. So he's foreshadowing that they're going somewhere. They're not just randomly stuck in the desert, going in circles, not knowing what's going to happen. He's bringing them, through these tribulations and difficulties, closer and closer in time, right? Maybe not geographically yet, to the Holy Land, to the Canaan. And to my knowledge, God hasn't said a lot about Canaan. I can't even recall in our last two books if he's been specific. I know that he promised Abraham, to give him a land, and his descendants would be like stars. I don't know if he was as specific as saying Canaan. I'll have to look. But now he's being very specific. He's saying you're going to Canaan, you're going to take possession of it. You're going to have houses there. They'll be in your possession. And you can imagine what it meant to people who had been slaves for 400 years in Egypt to hear Yahweh saying, not only will you take possession of a land, but you're going to have homes there that you will own, right? Slaves own nothing, right? So it's big. Like, this is, how can I put it? It's like in a relationship. I mean, the children of Israel have messed up and messed up and messed up multiple times by this point in the story. And God has, gotten upset and wiped out some of them and then forgiven them and is trying to approach them again and be close to them. And this is like that moment in a relationship where someone says, I love you, or, let's get married. It clearly, they're being aligned enough with Yahweh, just listening carefully to all of these laws, essentially, that he's giving about how to be and how to live, and even, how to handle infections and childbirth, that he's not feeling like they're blowing him off or being disobedient and obnoxious and taking him for granted. I'm sorry to be so colloquial, but that's like literally the story of God and humans, up to this point. Like, humans keep being brats. There's just no other way to put it. And God keeps getting his heart broken. So when he says this, it's really a moment. If it were a movie, you'd go, oh, did you hear that? It's really a moment where he's saying, okay, I believe in you. I believe you're going to make it all the way home. I believe you're going to stay faithful to me, and we'll get there together. And I'm going to bring you to a promised land and give it to you. So the other trippy thing to think about is God is describing physical built houses, substantial houses made of stone and mortar and timber, right? And these are people who are living in tents, and God knows how they lived in Egypt, probably in huts, right? And not only is he describing the future that hasn't happened yet, and that did happen, right? In real history, what God is describing in this chapter, in which they haven't gotten to Canaan yet. They have no reason to believe they can get to Canaan. Canaan's occupied by other people who are very warlike. But he's not just saying, I'm going to give you the land of Canaan. He's saying, he's describing the very substantial, solidly built for generations houses that they're going to live in the future, in the land of Canaan. So he's doing a very Godish thing here. Like, he knows, the next bend in the river, and these people don't know it, right? And then it ends up really happening in real history. I mean, to me, that just blows me away. You can go to Israel and see structures or foundations, not from this period, of course, but from, a very early period, the city of David, right? Jerusalem. And you can see that all this did come true. The children of Israel did eventually make it to the land of Canaan. They called it something else when they got there. The tribes renamed it, Judea and Samaria and so on. But they did build substantial houses, and they were made of stone and wood and mortar. It's kind of incredible. It's, unless, of course, this book was written by humans after the fact, narrating an origin story, which is also possible. I don't know to what extent this text is kind of dictated by actual God or composed by humans with, I think, divine inspiration. But whatever the case, or whatever the amalgam, and if you kind of want to get really metaphysical, maybe there's no difference, right? The bottom line is that in this section of the story, God is telling the future, and it's a future that really did happen. So the other trippy thing is that he talks about cities. You'll put the mortar that you scrape off the walls of these substantial houses outside of the city. Well, these people have never had a city, right? They've never had a city, not in living memory, right? They were 400 years probably in some kind of ghetto-like set of huts in cities belonging to Pharaoh, right? To the Egyptians. It was not their cities. It was not their land. And even in the early books, Genesis and Exodus, there were no cities. Like there were little settlements, maybe, that certainly are mentioned, but Moshe, or Yahweh, is saying to Moshe, you'll be in a city, you'll be in these substantial houses, and you'll put this detritus outside the walls of the city. Again, that really happened, and he's literally foretelling the future. And it's like amazing to think about what these people in the middle of the desert living in tents would have thought when purportedly Yahweh is telling Moshe, who's telling Aaron to tell the people, this is how you're going to handle leprosy in the future when God gives us this land and we build these substantial homes and we have cities. So, and that really happened, right? And you'll see that it really happened. You can still see remnants of the cities that were built under Solomon's reign and David's reign, which is coming up in future books. So to me, that just kind of blows me away, and it also kind of blows me away because the author doesn't make anything of it. The author just kind of takes for granted this very metaphysical moment that God is foretelling a future that really happened. And I don't fully know what to make of it, except that it's kind of miraculous. So then let's move on to the Revised Standard Version. Now, what I really want you to notice, and this came up yesterday, is that in the Geneva Bible, this section, like the last section, is all about cleansing. And you remember that in the Revised Standard Version, the last chapter was translated with disease, 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 disease. So here again, in chapter 14, if the leprous disease is healed in the leper, it's disease, 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 whereas in the original, it's like a lesion, right? It's just a neutral description. It's definitely something that could be a disease, right? But there's not this emphasis of disease, disease, disease. And everything else is pretty straightforward and technical. And so this is very interesting. It's line 33. The Lord, in the Revised Standard Version, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, when you come into the land of Canaan, which I give you for a possession, and I put a leprous disease in a house in the land of your possession, then he who owns the house shall come and tell the priest, there seems to me to be some sort of disease in my house. And then it goes on to say what happens to the disease, and just as in the last chapter, the Revised Standard Version must say the word disease 25 times. And then in the Hebrew and in the Geneva Bible, it's really all about cleansing, whereas in the modern translation, it's really all about disease. You have to stay healthy and well at times like this. You know that I often have suffered from mobility issues, and now I don't. Part of my lifestyle is Native Path collagen. So Native Path's collagen formula is made with ingredients that are scientifically developed to increase bone mineral density, support tissue recovery, reduce wrinkles, enhance hair thickness, and strengthen nails. Who wouldn't want more collagen with all of these benefits? So right now, when you visit getnativepath.com/dailyclout, you can stock up on Native Path collagen for up to an incredible 45% off today, plus free shipping. Every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee. You can try it risk-free today. It is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners, and it's third-party tested for heavy metals, which makes sure that it's pure and safe. It's flavorless. You can add it to anything. I add it to my oatmeal. You can add it to coffee or smoothies. Its formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes without clumping. And the best part is Native Path is offering amazing bundle deals, 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, 8,000 five-star reviews, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee, Native Path is a trusted choice, and they offer an 800 number. You can ask any question. A real person is waiting to help. You can join a private Facebook community. I love these people. Share recipes, success stories. So that's getnativepath.com/dailycloud and start your experience of transformation today. The other thing I want you to notice is that the bird is sacrificed over water. And how is it described? Running water. And we'll see that there is a different translation in the Hebrew. Now let's go to the Hebrew. But it's definitely much darker in the Revised Standard Version. Lastly, guys, when you think about the person with the disease or the lesion, right, reacting the way he or she is told to react, it's a high degree of moral responsibility that is expected of that person. In other words, it's a huge hassle to bring evidence of an infectious disease to the priest. And they could dismantle your house. They're certainly going to shut up your house and you in your house for 7 days, and maybe another 7 days. I mean, we've heard all the strictures. So the temptation, and you could, be exiled if you don't get clean, right? So the temptation would be to not tell, to hide it. And if you've got a lesion on your body, to hide it, right? I mean, this is honestly a big moral dilemma, not really a dilemma, but a moral crisis that came up during the AIDS epidemic, which I remember. I was a young woman in the 80s, and, people talked about, should you tell if you're HIV positive? Should you tell your partner? We actually had a horrible dilemma in my little group of college students, college graduates, because we knew a man was HIV positive, and we knew the woman he was sleeping with, and we knew that he hadn't told her. And so there was a big rift in this community of friends, because some of us felt, of course, you have to tell her, you have to save her life. It's intrusive and it's difficult and it's awkward, but you have to tell her. And other people were like, it's none of our business, or that's too uncomfortable. And I remember thinking that was like my first experience as a young woman with a clear moral rift. Right. I mean, to me, there wasn't a doubt at all. I came down on the side of, you have to tell her. Luckily, she found out before she got infected. But it was amazing to me that other people could think, let her be at risk. It's none of our business. Point is, it would be tempting in a self-oriented context to hide an infectious disease that could hurt other people. So you also have to consider, I'd like you to consider that when the text says you have to come forward and tell the priest, and let the priest go in your house and look at your stuff and look at the walls, or look over your body, or look at, you've shaved your head, he's looking at your head. That's a very high degree of responsibility for others, and a high trust society, right? And I guess the other thing I just want to share is that these restrictions and rules seem very burdensome, but if you zoom out, society as a whole is much safer. Everyone is safer and more likely to thrive when people are behaving in a way that is responsible to the community and morally guided, as opposed to just selfish. Well, I want to take care of myself. I want to take care of my family. I don't want to tell the priest. It's going to be a hassle. He's going to, possibly tear our house down. So I just want to know, I just want to think about that. And God isn't even saying like, you're going to be really annoyed, but you have to do it anyway. God is just saying, this is the law, right? This is the Torah. This is the instruction for leprosy. And so obeying God, I don't like that word because that's not quite right, but aligning with God definitely means that God expects a high degree of moral awareness of other people and of the impact of our actions on other people, even at our own expense. Very clear from this direction. So that's that. And then let's go to the Hebrew. Let's see if there's anything special. I'm not going to go through all of it because it's, again, very technical. But there are a few sentences I want to look at. By the way, what's another thing that should have triggered your memory? There's a strip of crimson wool. And to this day, people in some Jewish settings wear a strip of crimson wool. It's been quite kind of debased and popularized, but you've seen them, that like in Hollywood, they're wearing the strip of crimson wool. I don't know if it's directly related to this, but I think it's interesting. So the other thing is line 5, Vitziva, and commanded HaKohen, the priest, V'shachat, slaughter, et hatzipor, the bird, ha'echat, the one bird, el kli cheres, into an earthenware vessel, al mayim chayim, on or over, and they translate it as spring water. The RSV translated it as running water, but it's actually living water. Al mayim chayim. You remember that word chai? It means life. We say l'chaim, to life. And mayim is water. It's plural. Mayim chayim is living water. And this is a phrase that you who are Christian will recognize because Jesus too spoke about living water. And it's often translated in the New Testament as living water. But and it's got like a deep, profound meaning in the New Testament. But here you can see that it's also colloquial for just spring water or running water. And that's important in the desert because it means clean water, right? So let's go on and see if there's anything else. So line 11 says, Vahemed HaKohen mitaher, and the Kohen who's performing the purification. Et haish hamitaher, the person who is being purified. Ve'otam lifnei Adonai, and together before the face of God. Petach ohel moed, at the opening of the temple of meeting. So I'm just going to look back at the Revised Standard Version. I guess I'm not going to look back. I'm just going to note, you remember the Revised Standard Version is disease, disease, disease. The person is diseased. And here, as in Leviticus 12, when the woman who is impure, actually in the Hebrew is, at one point, the woman is sitting in the blood of her purity, right? Here, again, you have the translation being disease, disease, diseased, but in the Hebrew, it's all about cleansing and purification. The person is purifying. So I really hope you can hear the difference. And again, in line 14, it's the person being cleansed. Al tnuch ozen, the earlobe, ha mitaher, the person being cleansed, the person being purified, and the person being cleansed, the person being cleansed. So for the person being cleansed of his uncleanness, these are repetitions. So I hope you can hear that just as the Revised Standard Version talks about the person being diseased and the disease, throughout the Hebrew, it's not saying that. It doesn't say that. It's the person being cleansed, being purified, mitaher. It's reflexive. The person is purifying himself in the process of purification. And it doesn't actually say disease at all in the Hebrew. Isn't that crazy? It does talk in line 34 about a lesion of tsara'at, which is leprosy, but the word disease isn't in this section at all. It's purification. So let's look at line 34. Ki tavou. They translate it as when you come, but it's also because you will come. El eretz Canaan, toward the land of Canaan, asher ani noten lechem, which I give to you, le'achuzah, to a possession, v'natati nega, and I placed a legion, tzara'at, of leprosy, beveit eretz achuzatchem, in a house in the land of your possession. So the stressing of the possession is twice. And the Kohen will come look at the house, look at the lesion. There's lesion in the walls. So interesting that they think of leprosy as being in the walls of the house. They scrape the house, they take the stones outside, they plaster the house, they demolish the house if they have to. Anyone who lies down shall immerse his garments, and to ritually cleanse the house. Le velakach lechet et habayit shtei tziporim ve'etz Erez ushni tolaat ve'ezov, and he shall take 2 birds, a cedar stick, a strip of crimson wool, and hyssop, and again he'll slaughter 1 bird into an earthenware vessel, almaim chayim, over living water, and then it ends. To render decisions regarding the day of uncleanness and the day of cleanness, le horot beyom hatameh uveyom hatahor, to kind of illuminate in the day of uncleanness or impurity and the day of purity. Zot Torat Hatzara'at. This is the Torah or the law of Tzara'at or leprosy. And let's just look at the RSV Leviticus 14 one more time. I just want to see if that disease is at the very end. Yeah, it is 54. They put disease where it isn't. This is the law for any leprous disease, for an itch, for leprosy in a garment or a house, and a swelling or an eruption or a spot, to show when it is unclean and when it is clean. That's literally not what it says in Hebrew. This is the law for leprosy. In Hebrew, it's to illuminate the day of cleanness or purity and the day of impurity, which is a much more elevated, spiritually awakened concept than, the priest is saying when something's clean and when it's diseased. So I hope you hear the difference. And I just want to read, in the time we have left, a really interesting exposition. And this is from the Rebbe.org. And it's about the name of the Torah reading. The above concepts also clarify a difficulty with regard to the name of our Torah reading, Parshat Metzorah. Metzorah means leper. One might think that the name of a reading in the Holy Torah would be associated with a word of more positive import. I said that at the beginning. It's kind of heavy, right? This question is reinforced by the fact that in the works of the early rabbinic sages, a different name was employed for this reading. The explanation is that in these later generations, cracks have appeared in the wall of exile, and through them, the light of Mashiach, Messiah, shines. In the light of Mashiach, Metzorah is not a negative factor, but as explained above, an expression of transcendent godliness. So they interpret these lesions as something that happens to someone who's filling up with goodness and developing goodness, but they haven't purified their entire being. So it kind of erupts as leprosy. Nevertheless, there are still blotches of evil on the periphery, for the world is still scarred by injustice and strife, and thus the light of redemption cannot yet become manifest. This is reflected in the leprous blemishes which are visited on Mashiach himself. So in this passage, they're actually saying the Messiah suffers from blemishes, from these eruptions. For as the prophet states, and it's true, quote, he has borne our sicknesses and endured our pain with blemishes, smitten of God and afflicted, end quote. Mashiach endures suffering not for his own sake, but for the Jewish people as a whole. Obviously, this is a Jewish text, but Christians will recognize this suffering servant passage because they read it as foretelling the Christian Mashiach, which is Yeshua. So in this passage, they're saying why there's lesions on the body of someone good. There's still a difficulty. Although the above passage explains why Mashiach must endure suffering, it does not show why that suffering is identified with Mashiach. Mashiach's name, who he is, should be positive. This difficulty can also be resolved on the basis of a passage from Likutei Torah cited previously. So that explains that leprous blemishes reflect very high levels, their source being transcendental spiritual light associated with Mashiach. But for this light to be expressed in a positive manner, suitable vessels are required. Mashiach's suffering will bring about a final refinement in the world at large, making it a fit vessel for the revelation of its transcendent potential. Since this revelation lies at the heart of the era of the redemption, the catalyst necessary to bring it about is therefore associated with Mashiach's name. And then it goes on to say that that when people commit to a moral life, they purify the suffering, they purify the even the lesions, right? Torah study develops human vessels that allow light, all light, even the most sublime, to be accepted and internalized in our world. Through Torah study, which is what we're doing, the transcendent influence of tzara'at can be channeled into a positive force. Similarly, with regard to Mashiach, studying the teachings about Mashiach precipitate his revelation, drawing his influence into the world. So they read this as the seeds of our divine service won't wait endlessly in the dark cloud of exile, but that Metzorah, the redemption, will blossom immediately after the last seeds have been sown. So it's very interesting to read that because obviously Christians believe Mashiach has come. And these Jews, the Chabad Rebbes and the Rebbes from centuries ago that this writer cites, don't. They think that Mashiach is in the future. But they also have a very different idea of what brings Mashiach. I think it's quite a beautiful idea. Their idea is that we bring about the arrival of the Messiah through good works and through filling the world with moral light, and that the more we study Torah and engage in moral lives, in just lives, do justice, engage in acts of mercy and kindness, that draws the light of Mashiach into the world. And again, I will say, I do think Yeshua was saying the exact same thing. And it's an idea that really comes from, the Hebrew Bible and the laws that God is kind of laying out. The kingdom of heaven, it's not some arbitrary thing that we just have to sit around waiting for. He, over and over, the way I read the New Testament, Yeshua said, you bring the kingdom of heaven through your actions into this world. It's not some distant thing that a church mediates or a synagogue, after your death, the kingdom of heaven. And I said this in my reading of the Hebrew Matthew. In Hebrew, it's the kingdom of heaven, karov. And that can mean a lot of different things. It means is near, like an adjective. It also means is nearing, like a verb, right? It's coming closer all the time, like, a meteor. Um, and it can even mean it's here, right? Like it's right next to us. It's here on this planet. It's here in our homes. That it's here in our families. It's right next to us. Karov. It's present. It's intimate. I mean, it's near, not present. But so you can read it any of those ways, but it's definitely not the way it's translated via the Greek and Latin in English translations. The kingdom of heaven is coming, right? It's not that. It's near. It's nearing. It's near us. It's a different meaning, and I think that it is aligned with what we just read. Like, I guess we should wrap up by saying, and it's kind of a stretch, because really this chapter is about leprosy and how you scrape the walls of your house to keep from infecting your neighbors. But I guess that the takeaway from this chapter is that even when things seem incredibly disgusting and gross and infectious and broken and destroyed, there's the ability to purify ourselves, right? And to be purified and to holy eyes ourselves, like Kadesh, and to be holy eyes, these verbs that don't exist in English. And that God wants us to, and doesn't want us to live in filth and infection and squalor, and is encouraging us to, take steps to clean ourselves, our bodies, to purify, right? Our thoughts, our relationships, and maybe, these lesions are just a metaphor, or also a metaphor, as well as really good instructions from a very caring God to a bunch of people in the middle of a desert without much running water about how to keep infectious disease from overrunning the community. All right. So Rosario Santana says the work of God's is proclaimed everywhere. He's promised soon everybody experiment and many blessings, those who are obedient and hearing his commands. Perhaps you mean everybody experiences many blessings, those who are obedient and hearing his commands. And again, I hope that you take away that obedience is not like slavish, doing everything without thinking about it. It is this kind of respect for what God is asking, in the light of God's many gifts, and aligning with God in the project that God is setting out, which is also, as God keeps saying at the end of these 3 chapters, this is the law, Zot Torah, this is the law. This is the law for childbirth. This is the law for leprosy. This is the law for, leprosy and cleaning your house. And that's about it. Oh, lots of comments here. Nijislabi says Jesus won't be coming back anytime soon. I literally, who knows, right? I don't know. I think a lot of people think it's around the corner. And that's it. I hope that's been helpful. We're going to read chapter 15 tomorrow. And I hope we get out of bloodshed and leprosy soon. But I also recognize, just like, not eating pork and shellfish on my personal journey, not telling you what to do. I may want the movie to be, less heavy and more entertaining, but it's not my movie, And if this sacred text included these chapters, it's for a good reason. And whether we take them literally or figuratively, there's deep lessons there about our responsibility to others. And the ever-present opportunity to purify. Like, we always get to come back. I should say, as we hang up or go, in Hebrew, among the Orthodox, they talk about returning to faith or embracing a more observant lifestyle as choser b'tshuva, to return, to return in returning. Actually, it's kind of a duplicate term, two different ways of saying to return. And it's always there, like you're never lost in this religion, which is also your religion if you're Christian, I believe, the roots of it. You're never lost. You're never given up. You're never abandoned. You can always choser and mitkadesh or mitkadeshet, to make holy yourself. You can always, mitaher or mitaheret, make pure yourself. Obviously not alone, but with in partnership with God. I don't want to say in obedience, although that's a reasonable translation, but a different kind of obedience. It's like, like obeying your husband or wife in a good relationship. You don't do what they hate because you love them, right? That's not really slavish obedience. So there we are. I hope that's helpful, and I'll see you tomorrow. And remember, if you care about these readings, we need your help. Please support Daily Clout or my Substack Outspoken, so that we can keep the doors open, keep the producer producing, the social mediaing, the editor editing, the hosting paid for on Amazon. We do need your help, and if you can't afford to help, no worries. Enjoy, share, and keep coming back if you want to continue this rather exciting journey. Take care, everybody.